about to get started on part 2. We have about 10 more awesome demos, so stay tuned. And make sure that you go to our alumni page, turing.io/alumni, to hire some of our awesome grads.
All right. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start back up. I want to ask one favor of you all. As you're sort of coming in and getting seated, we are going to have some additional guests that are going to be joining us for the graduation who probably haven't come to demo night. If you can sort of like squeeze in, if you have empty seats that are like between you and like the people next to you, go ahead and squeeze in so that they can like, and probably into the center here, so that they can get in on the sides. That'd be awesome. We'll go ahead and let Aaron take it from here.
Good evening. All right, so my application is intended to solve a problem that you encounter particularly on smaller political campaigns, but is also applicable for anything that involves door-to-door sales, anything like that. It is in its infancy. I guess I should say I'm mod 4 backend, so I'm graduating as well. This is all new to me. The front end is built in React Native with Redux and React Native Router Flux, and the back end is in Koa with connects for the SQL. So when you're running a smaller campaign, an issue campaign, you're dealing with a lot of paperwork, and so if you're managing that campaign, you're also dealing with a real lack of control over your individual canvassers. So your canvassers may or may not be visiting the targets that they're supposed to visit, and the only way to really tell is whether if they were able to get responses from the targets or kind of monitoring directly. So this application is eventually going to be a front end on the React Native side with that's for the canvassers themselves. So as they go around to the targets, they can collect survey information, they can collect donations, they will eventually hopefully be able to map to their specific blocks that they're targeting. And then there will be an admin page, which will be a web application as well, for the admin to set the targets, set users, all other sorts of admin control. So a user, right now, it's just the mobile front end. So I'll show you what that's like. A user logs in. And the first thing they see is a list of the available campaigns that they are assigned to, and they can log out from this screen. They can't get back to the login, so that kind of secures the application itself. If they want to view surveys for a particular campaign, they click through. Sometimes you'll have different polls for different targets, so that's what this use case is for. I just use the example of a push poll if you're wanting to drive voters in a certain direction. But just as an example, choose this first one. You go to list of targets. At some point, this will probably be where the mapping functionality will be, so that the user can find where they're supposed to go. But they can click on a target and initiate a survey. So again, all these questions are fed by the admin, and if they want to, so they'll head up to the front door, knock on the door, and instead of having someone fill out a piece of paper or having to fill out the piece of paper themselves and carry around a lot of paperwork, they could just take the voter's answer in here, submit it, and then head back to the rest of the answers. So again, this is in its infancy. There's a lot of functionality that needs to be built out. I'm going to gray out answered questions on this page. Again, I'm going to add maps. I'd like to add the ability to take payments and a whole bunch of stuff on the admin side. So thank you so much.
the mod 3 one? Right there. Oh, is it? Okay, never mind.
There you go.
I don't know if this is gonna work. We're gonna do our best. Okay. So, I originally came to Turing. Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Yeah? No?
Try the other one.
Oh.
There
Got it?
you
Okay.
go.
Okay. So in college, I studied a lot of like marketing and fashion. And something that we really learned to do was to identify a problem and finding any like meaningful solution to it via like statistical insights. So something that I grew passionate about during college was that fashion is the second dirtiest industry in the world. I felt like for producers and designers, there was a really high barrier to entry in that if they wanted to get involved in the industry, they had to either produce or design either really expensively or really unethically. So I tried to find a kind of like happy medium where they could have a communication platform. So that was what I set out to build. So we're gonna see if this works. Okay, so my app is called Mugatu because we had nothing better and Josh recommended it. Okay, so let me log in as an admin here. Okay, all right, we're gonna see how this goes. All right, so as a designer, I logged in. There are three main roles. There are designers, producers, and admin. Admin kind of has this like God complex where they can see everything. So as a designer, I will post a design. I think I want to post a dress cherry print. So here I'm going to post a cherry print. Okay, cool. So I'm going to choose this. And that is for my desktop. And I want this done by the 31st. And I want it in the $35 to $45 range. Cross my fingers that this works. Okay, cool. So this has been now posted to my designs, and it's posted as pending. So as an admin, I have these logged in as different accounts. So as an admin, I can log in, and in pending designs, I have to approve this. Basically, this is so that like nothing is posted crazy. Like nothing is posted where it's like, I want this done tomorrow, because that leads to like unethical production measures. So right now I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to approve it. Sweet. So now as a producer, now that it's been designed, let's see, I'm going to log in as producer. Okay, cool. Let's see. In designs, I have dress cherry. Cool. So I'm going to apply to the design, and I can give like my tentative production plan. So hold on. Okay, so I've created my production plan. I feel like I can get it done by February, and I feel like I can do it for $50. So now as a designer, I see in my designs, let's see, should be showing up. Okay, so right now I have a pending application. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here. So I can look at that application. I can say, okay, they want to do it for $50 by February. I'm done with that. Let's accept the application. Cool. So now, as a producer, this actually creates an order, which you can see right here. There's an application ID. The order takes like the price from the application, because the designer has now agreed upon it, and it also takes the due date. So now, as a producer, this shows up in my orders. So when I choose to, like, I've now designed this order. I'm ready to now print the shipping label and ship it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, by the way, when I created these accounts, I did them with a name, address, phone number, all that stuff. So when I print the shipping label, okay, so it prints a shipping label for me. And then I can mark the order as shipped. And then now the status is changed to shipped. Now as a designer, when I look at the orders, it is marked as shipped. I can click on it. I can say that, oops, sorry. My orders, to address, let's see. I can mark the order as received, and I can rate them out of 5. Let's say that I want a 3 and 5 in efficiency and accuracy. So thank you for rating order number 9. That goes into my archived orders. And then now, when I go to my thing, I can look at my past orders, and I can look at McKinley Smith, who's my brother, right there. And I can see that he has an average rating of 2. So to me, this was like, sorry. But to me, this was like the accountability system that Uber and Airbnb uses, where they like hold parties accountable by their ratings. And I felt like fashion needed that. So yeah, that's my app.
Right one? Yes. All right. My name is Hugh, and I built a aggregate surf forecasting website. Thanks, man. And like the main thing is why though? Like why would you do this, and what does it mean? So surf forecasting websites are notoriously inaccurate, and to get a solid read on like a forecast for a certain spot, you have to visit like 3 or 4 different sites and then make your own deductions based on what you read there. And so I pulled in 3 different weather-related APIs, formatted the data, normalized the data on the Rails API, and then served it up on this sweet React front end. I'm authenticating all my requests with JSON web tokens. And it may blow up, but hopefully not. Cool. So it redirects you to a map page, which I built using Leaflet's library. And these are all the spots seated in my database. You can also, if you're a big satellite guy, you can like change that out. Say I want to go to San Francisco and I want to like see what's going on at Ocean Beach. My chart loads, that'd be sweet. That's not happening, but usually there's a really badass aggregated surf forecasting chart here. There is a weather forecast with Windy's API, and you can do wind, rain, snow, clouds, waves, etc. You get like a swell, primary, secondary swell, and you can like play that out if you want to see if there's big storm incoming. Cool. I use Google Maps API here to like direct you to the spot. So there's Ocean Beach. It's real gnarly and cold. I like it. We got some tides back. That's cool. I built a little hype component because I like that. So here we have like videos if you want to like watch and get psyched to go surfing. So there are a bunch of those. I use web scraping to build a custom little news feed here. So like if we click here, it takes us to an external source where we are. So these are all like little news stories if you want to get hyped up some more. And oh, cool. We got some slowly loading charts. So these are all the spots in the database from north to south. And so you can kind of like get a week-long overview of those. Let's give this another go. Come on, Ocean Beach. Nice. So here we get a little text forecast. We get conditions. They're fair, quite large. We saw a large west swell flows in this afternoon, which we saw in our little windy situation here. We have these are all the sources: Magic Seaweed, Surfline, Spitcast, and as you can see, they're all not widely, but they're different enough for it to make a difference. And so that is my application. Thank you very much.
So we've all been there before. You and your spouse decide to go out to eat, and you can't decide on where to go. You end up fighting about it, you arrive at the restaurant like an hour late, and then ends up 6:30, there's no tables, of course. That's where Eats comes in. So I love food, so I decided to build an app based on to help me decide where to eat next. So if you come to the home page, you can see that it already comes up as we're in Denver, Colorado. And you can see places near us right now. And then if you go back to the home page and log in, you can see the places near you and places that I've already favorited. You can go to the favorites page and see everything you've favorited. And then you can go to the recommendations page, which takes in your current location, and then it takes in your favorites and gives you new recommendations based on things you've already favorited. So let's say next week I'm going to New York City and I'm like, I'm not sure where I'm going to eat in New York City. Let's see. You can go back to the recommendations page and it'll reload recommendations based on your new destination, but with your same recommendations that you've already entered in favorites. So to build this project, I used React and Redux for the front end. The authentication's done with Google Firebase, and that's about it. I'm Julie. Thanks.
Here's my hour.
I'm Francie. Hi, I'm Amy. We're both graduating tonight from the front-end program. And everyone thinks we're the same person, so we decided to do our capstone together. And we were also educators for the last 8 years before coming to Turing, so we're never the same. But we're going to demo the app in a minute, and I just want to give you some context about the problem we were trying to solve. If you know or read much about education or politics around it, you probably heard of the Common Core standards. About 8 years they were rolled out and are being implemented across the US. And it kind of requires a new way of planning and instruction for teachers, which education is slow, and so change is slow. And that makes it really difficult for teachers to get really good development and know how to best instruct their students. It's easy to go down a wormhole in Pinterest and find fun worksheets or activities to do that aren't aligned, and it's just really hard to find the best resources. Really the best resources are from other experienced educators. And so we decided to build a platform for teachers to communicate, ask really focused questions, and get advice from their peers. Yeah.
So Amy's going to start logging in, but the technologies we use for the front end React, Redux, Router, and then our landing page is done with Victory. And then our backend is Node and Express, and then Postgres and Connects. So you land on our landing page, it greets you, and then gives you a little summary of what your data is looking like. So this perfect teacher, Miss Lang, has 6 discussions and has made 14 comments. We can go check out all discussions, and you can scroll down, and each discussions are tagged based on the standard. So like Amy was saying, that with Common Core, there are specific things that students need to learn, and so this way teachers can isolate which standard they're looking for. We can go to the standards and browse by grade, and then click on a standard, and then that will take you to any discussions that relate to that standard. You can comment on, you can go back. Oh, no discussions for that one. Okay, so you can add a comment, and then read which comments are already there. And then if you go to new discussion, you can start a new discussion. And we wanted it to guide you through the process to make it simple for the teacher, so things appear when they need to appear. And then you can add a tag. So if you perfect. So then you add a tag to your discussion. That's it.
Hi, Mom.
I'm Aurora. I'm a backend just finishing Mod 3. So I have a confession. We talk a lot in Turing about time. One of the sessions that we have in Mod 3 is on the, microphone, thank you, is that we talk about the attention economy and basically about how the internet is sucking our lives away. And I allow it to suck my life away for like 20 minutes every morning because I can't get out of bed. And so this week I ran across an article that was talking about laboratories, so the scientific community and the technology that they use, and how the scientific laboratories are often really outdated. Like we're talking like some of them use floppy disks and like the original Mac computers. And incidentally, not to call anyone out or name any names, but the Nobel Institute for Healthy Aging does some incredible work around brain health and the effects of diet on aging. And they track their laboratory data with Excel spreadsheets. So they have lab mice, and if they want to look up information about a mouse, they go into their Excel spreadsheet and they do a find, and then they type in a number, and then they pull up the mouse from there. And so this is my contribution to the scientific world, is the lab mouse tracker. So the back end is built in Postgres and Rails, and the front end is some pretty fancy HTML and CSS. So you can log in. It does implement Google OAuth. And so when you log in, it takes you to your dashboard, and so it will take you to mice that you have tracked. So if you're more interested in certain mice compared to others, it will take you to those. You can click on those, and you can see the attributes of that. You can also add a note. This mouse is great. And you can add that note, and it will be available to all of the scientists that are users of this application. You can also untrack or track the mouse from their show page. You can see a list of all the mice. The favorited ones are obviously the ones with the stars. The upside down ones are the ones that have sadly no longer with us. These mice are still kicking it. You can also choose which attributes. The diet and their ploidy attributes are what they're typically. No, filter's not working right now. Couldn't tell you why. So in theory, you can filter the mice, and it will drop it down to the mice that you care about. And then this was my foray into JavaScript, which is a thing that's probably my key takeaway from this project. It's much harder to iterate through collections in JavaScript than it is in Ruby. Okay, my filter finally kicked in, so that's what the filter looks like. So for the analytics, you can compare groups of mice against another. So you can choose what attributes you'd like to group by. You can also choose what attribute of those mice you want to chart, and then you can choose what type of chart you want. And then in theory, when you hit create chart, it will populate said chart with their IDs and then the levels for each mouse. And then you can also search for the mouse by their ID. And so this is actually, they're going to use this in their lab, and so it's going into beta testing next week. I need to fill out a little bit this week in terms of being able to add and update and delete mice from the interface and be able to access user profiles, update their accounts, but otherwise this will go into the lab next week, and then I get to collect feedback on the interface and the features, and then kind of go from there. So one of the things I learned is that it's a lot different developing something for project specifications versus actual people. Some ways good, some ways bad, but that was a really cool thing to get to work on for this project. So thanks for listening.
So my name is Adrian Lara. I just finished the Backend Mod 3 program. Wait, not program, Backend Mod 3. One thing about me, when I'm working in class, working on personal projects, working on my own, I've got my headphones on, I'm listening to music and jamming out. But also, one other thing to know about me is I'm interested in machine learning. So I combined those two, and I made an app called Machine Learning Songs. What this app does, it saves user preferences, like likes or dislikes of songs, and it makes predictions as to whether a user will dislike or like other songs. This app uses or consumes the Spotify API, and from there I grab song information, like users currently playing song, as well as the song's audio features, which includes some of these features: energy, instrumentalness, withdrawal. I guess one thing about the app is it uses machine learning. It uses a machine learning algorithm to predict whether a user will like or dislike a song. And so you might be wondering how. And the answer is a Gaussian naive Bayes algorithm. Big mathy word. I'll walk through it in a minute. But this is a main component of the app, so I want to explain it at a high level. So let's go back to those audio features. And let's take two of them, acousticness and danceability. Let's say each of these audio features can have a rating from 0 to 1. And let's start applying points. Let's start liking or disliking songs. So let's say I don't like this song, I happen to like this song, and so forth. So you end up with a collection of likes and dislikes. Nice. And so from this, you can start making generalities, generalizations. And you can, from this data, infer that I like songs that have a high danceability. So let's bring in a new song, and given the prior information, we can say that I will likely like this song. And so now we go to the actual app, which, just to remind you, I'm in Backend, so this is going to be, don't get too blown away. Cool. So you're on the app, and what you do is you log in through Spotify. So I'm currently playing a song right now in the background. I don't think it's actually playing, but my Spotify's up, and I have the song up, and I have it paused. So I can like or dislike the song. Let's like this one. I'm going to skip to the next song, and hopefully it doesn't start playing. Okay, it did. So let's just dislike this song, just to have both cases out there. So I played another song, and I guess the cool feature to my app is the prediction page. And in the example that we walked through earlier, we had two axes. And what this app actually does, it takes 12 features. So I don't think you can actually visualize that. But once you run that, once you click this predict button, it runs the algorithm and gives you a percentage chance of whether you like or dislike the song. And I'm Adrian Lana. Thanks for listening.
Hello, my name is Alex. It's Jordan. We are in, we just finished front end mod 2. So, for those of you in the front end, this project is fairly familiar, I'm sure. This is our Weatherly. It is a weather app that basically you put in any city or zip code and it's going to pull up the weather for that location. Go for it, yeah. This is our first time using React for this project, so we had a lot of fun doing that. And you'll see it gives you the 7-hour forecast, the scrollable bar there. A 10-day forecast, same idea. And that's kind of the most of it. If you refresh the page, it will keep the information. We use local storage for that. And yeah, so Denver, pull up a new city. Yeah, and it keeps updating. It's very responsive like that.
One cool fun feature was in the 7-hour forecast, this was our first foray into React. So the temperature conditionally renders the color based on whether it's higher or lower than 50 degrees, so that was kind of fun. And we show you guys this today, not with the capacity to blow your minds, but to show like our genuine excitement in learning React and the potential that we're going to develop as we move through the mods.
Oh yeah, autocomplete's a really cool feature, you know.
Yeah. So that was one of our projects. We actually got to package up our Complete Me, which was loosely based on how phone would suggest words towards you, and it utilizes like a prefix tree or binary tree data structure, and it's going to render those components for you and automatically update based on what you put in. It would work for any city in the United States, but we have it populated for 1,000 of the largest cities and then 1,500 of the largest zip codes. And I think that about covers it. So thank you guys.
All right, so I love watching, I'm like Backend mod 4 graduating tonight. I love watching TV and movies, but Netflix, at least the version that I've had, I can't figure out how to update the firmware on my TV, so I get the old version. And as far as I know, Netflix, you can only add things to like a watch list, so you can only like have one list of favorites. And the other thing was, yeah, so you only have that one thing. So I made this. It's basically a Netflix and Facebook love child, I guess. So I used React on the front end, Rails on the back end. I made my APIs that hit the YouTube API because it was suggested. I don't distribute copyrighted material, so I can stay out of jail. So I used React Google Login. I can log in, and I have my wife, Eddie, and Ricky as other users. I want to add it to where I can search for the other users to add friends, but right now, Ricky doesn't like me that much because he hasn't accepted my request yet. I had Eddie send me a request, friend request, which shows up over here as still pending, and I can accept or decline it over here. Here I list the friends. My wife, thankfully, wants to be my friend. I have favorites over here. So going back a little for a second, I can search videos, and as Caitlin found out, this is one of my favorite shows, Firefly. So I can add things to favorites, so we'll see why the real reason Firefly was canceled. And here it is right here. I can delete it, goes away. But let's say I wanted to add this thing to the best show ever playlist. I do that, it adds it. So now I can go over here, and there it is. And again, I can delete it. I can go back. Can't see my mouse. I can go back, add it back to there, just to show that it wasn't there before. And there it is again. I can also, so this is what I used to do before I started Turing. I did competitive jiu-jitsu. So here it goes. Okay, let's not use my speakers. So I hit the YouTube API, and it does its thing. And this time, I was actually able to get the video to stop playing when I hit the post modal. Boom, that was awesome. Yeah, so that's my app. I want to make it to where I have some drop downs come out, because the main feature that I didn't have time to implement, but it's easy once I got the friend functionality down, is to have be able to see your friends' playlists. So that way I can make playlists and I can group them together. Like maybe I like comedies that do this one thing, and maybe my friend here wants to see my playlist, so now she can access my playlist and see them and favorite them or add them to her own playlist. And that's my app. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry I'm not wearing a belt. So the name of my app is Hyperbread. And so Hyperbread represents like the duality between anxiety and calmness. And you really can have one without accepting the other. Like the people that know me might think that I'm perfect, and I'm kind of close. I also like sometimes get really anxious, and growing up, like I always like had like repetitive behavior. Like if I stepped on one lip with one foot, I would have to use the other, and like also washing my hands like all the time. And so growing up, that kind of like evolved into like obsessive like thoughts, and I learned some breathing exercises or things that can help me get distracted from that and kind of like not let it affect like everyday life. Also, when I was 19, I was a hotline advocate for RAP, now called the Blue Bench, and they offer assistance to sexual assault victims. And so sometimes they would just call because like they watched a movie and something triggered them and they needed to talk to someone. Some other times like they had just been assaulted and so they just needed more information. So this app offers helplines even if you're not logged in, and it has AIDS and HIV hotlines, alcohol and drugs, also like bullying and cyberbullying. So it just loads all these different helplines if you really need to talk to someone. There's also other things that the app offers. Okay. So after you log in, you have access to the gratitude journal. And so this gratitude journal allows you to record everyday activities. And so when you're feeling down or sad, you can always come back and have this collection of good things in your life. So today, I presented at Turing. And so you can create cards, and it'll give you like a date stamp of when that happened, so you can just keep adding more and more. This is more like a template of like what I'm doing. It's not totally done, but also it gives you access to breathing exercises. This is where the breathing exercises would be. And one really good one was you follow the dot from top to bottom right and then to left. And so you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out. And so you do that for a couple of times, it calms your heart rate, and it like helps you to come back to be centered. Also, you can search for meditation videos. So you can search for other meditation videos. Technically, you can search for anything on YouTube. And yeah, you can. Oh, one more thing, yeah. So also every day there's a different quote at the bottom. So that's today's quote. And support lines again available, for sure. Okay.
Remind me to vote.
Vote.
Don't forget to vote.
Oh. Don't forget to vote. Sal says, all right, that was a lot of demos, a lot of sitting. Y'all stand up for a second, shake it out. Okay, now, as you heard, the HVAC is off now, so don't make too much body heat. Or it's going to smell like pizza and happy hour. Next up, graduation time. I'm going to keep my part short and roll it right into Lita and Nathaniel.
Right now?
You can sit down now.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.